in 1935. So we're going to talk to them about that. We're also going to have our very own Paris Schutz on to talk about the school budget. But first, I want to go to something that's happening live in New Jersey, right near Atlantic City, where we know there was a mid-air collision. A helicopter collided mid-air. This was Sunday near Hamilton Municipal Airport. We know 2 New Jersey men died as a result of this. And right now, you can see the NTSB is on the ground doing their investigation. We know both men that died in this, they were considered to be experienced private pilots. So this is one of those stories that we indeed will be watching closely to see what comes out of it. But back here at home, this is a story that everyone has been talking about. A lot of concern here on exactly what is unfolding. So on December 23rd, we learned that there was a robbery. 2 21-year-old male victims were in a parking garage and they were robbed. This is all tied to the Bally's Casino location. And what we're learning, we actually heard from one of the victims in this case saying that they were held up at gunpoint in this parking garage after winning inside the casino, and they believe that someone had been following them and watched them cash out, follow them into the parking garage, and at that point, that is when they were robbed. We want to bring in 2 experts to talk about this, the safety implications, what can be done about this to make sure that people are protected when they are gambling as a whole, not just here at Bally's, but anywhere in the country. We have Chuck Sedano, who's with us, owner of PC Systems. That is a computer support company located in St. Louis, Missouri. Also is considered to be a licensed private investigator. We also have Mike Barbieri, who's with us from Global Intelligence. First of all, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule today to talk to us about this. Chuck Sedano, I want to start with you. Tell me, as soon as were made aware of this story, what were some things that came to mind for you?
Well, the first thing with the story taking place in Chicago, of course, the patrons are unfortunately easy targets. They can't carry, and the parking lot for this particular casino forces them to go down to street level. So they are literally, walking on the street, in this case, 1 a.m. The old rule from Karate Kid 2 still holds. Best block is not be there. Being street level, walking around with a lot of money at 1 a.m., it's just not wise. So the best, you don't want to do victim blaming, but the best idea is to put some forethought into it. Perhaps go ahead and pay for the valet parking so that you're not exposed to being, street level so much.
Mike, I want to bring you into the conversation. The first thing I think of is, people go to Vegas all the time. They're gambling, they're winning. And so far, we haven't heard of this happening, at least on a regular basis, or really happening at all. What makes Chicago so different in this case?
Well, I think what makes Chicago different is the lack of security in the casino itself, and the lack of security in the parking lots going in and out of the casino. The problem that we see a lot is that these spotters are inside the casino. They're getting on the phone. They see somebody cash out for a large sum of money. They call their friend, who happens to be standing by the door, and then they follow them out. Or the friend that's standing by the door marks the person, and then there's another individual in the parking lot that ends up robbing them. Now, you don't have that kind of situation in Las Vegas, because everywhere you go in Las Vegas, you'll see 15 or 20 security guards standing by the front door, standing by the exits to the casinos, and standing and doing mobile reserve parking lot control. So that's why it doesn't happen in Vegas.
Chuck, you brought up the fact that, maybe if you are a patron at one of these locations in Chicago, because we've seen it in a suburban area too, nearby called Des Plaines, where similar situations have unfolded. You say get the VIP parking, valet park, get in, get out. What else would you say are some things that people can do to make sure that they are protected in the event that this continues to happen?
Now, the best thing is to plan for it happening ahead of time. Obviously, you don't want to walk around being paranoid, but it makes sense to walk around being aware of your surroundings. Criminals typically want to attack easy targets. The generic advice is always to cooperate. Your life is more important than whatever you're carrying. But realistically speaking, if you call attention, if you make noise, if you're prepared to make noise, if you have an alarm that you can set off, you can use your car fob, trigger the car alarm. Anything you can do to call attention without immediately risking your life, by all means do. But the most important thing is just be aware. If somebody you don't know starts approaching you, and there's no good reason for them to approach you, or even if they say, start a conversation with you, but it's, again, somebody you don't know, listen to your instinct. If someone's approaching and you don't know them, start making noise. Start asking them to stay away from you. It will discourage a fair amount of criminal attention because they're looking for the easy mark.
Yeah, very good points there. And drinking sometimes in a casino, you do let your guards down. Mike, I want to ask you this, looking at this from a broader scope here, in terms of casinos in Vegas, maybe versus, in some of these other places where there's not this mass influx of casinos. Do casinos have their own individual security and security plans? How does that work in terms of security setup?
Every casino that I've worked with before has their own internal security and their own uniform security. There are two types of security in the casinos. Actually, there's three types if you consider the control room. The control room is a room where they monitor every single camera in the casino. And as you know, there's no place in a casino that's not covered by a camera. So you have three groups. You have the uniform guys that are out there that you see all the time. You have the guys that are in plain clothes dressed like normal patrons that are, walking around with you, walking around you. They're in plain clothes, so you don't even think that they're security. Then, of course, you got the guys that are watching the cameras and are talking to the uniform guards and also the plainclothes security.
I want to ask you a follow-up to that, Mike, based on what you said there. Based on your knowledge, and you've doing this for quite some time, in your opinion, from a setup perspective, is it better for a casino to be in a crowded downtown place, kind of isolated, in downtown? Or is it better to have like a Vegas setup where there's several casinos, in a few square miles?
Well, most of the time when we work with the casinos in Las Vegas, they are working with security from every single casino that's around them. So it's more advantageous to be in a group of casinos because their security quadruples. So if there's an issue in one casino, they can automatically call the other casino and tell them to be on the lookout for and be aware of these particular individuals. So it's probably better, like Vegas has it set up, where they always coordinate between casinos, between casino security, and between the guys in the box. We call them the guys in the box that are watching all the cameras, even the street level cameras they're watching. So they can always contact other security teams that can help out.
Based on what you've heard here, and both of you gentlemen can take a stab at this question, what needs to be improved or what could be improved to have a different outcome here?
Well, this particular casino is changing locations next year. So hopefully the new location will take security a little more seriously. I don't want to cast blame on them, but they really ought to have armed security available. Mike, to you?
Yeah, I think you're right, Chuck. I mean, if you've got security, they better be armed because the bad guys are armed. So
right.
you have to neutralize the bad guys. And if they just see a bunch of guys,
there have to be consequences. Right now, it's virtually no consequence to the criminal.
Exactly right, and they know that also. So when you see a bunch of guards walking around with no guns, they have guns. Guess who's going to win?
Well, there was even a guy who was arrested for robbing somebody at a casino, who was out on parole and then robbed again and robbed again. Same guy, 3 times.
Yeah, well, most of them
he knows he's going to get away with it.
Right, most of them have large criminal records anyway. Chuck,
Right.
You and I both know that. We've handled situations where the guy may have been arrested 15 times, and he's back out on the street in the next 5 minutes, right? Going to the next casino so they can, because it's easier to rob somebody than it is to sit at a table and work really hard to get your money.
There you go.
Have you been in any situations where you've been brought in to advise or maybe sit on a panel of some sort to try to sort out, security issues involving a casino where people have been robbed, or people thought they could come in and potentially rob some of the people that are there gambling.
Sure.
Chuck, you
Mike,
got some? All right.
I'll let you take it. You've done more with casinos than I have.
Yeah, we do what they call threat assessments. And the threat assessment has to do with a particular set of circumstances. Let's say somebody does get robbed, but we catch the guy. So the question is, let's go back and take a look at the threat assessment and see how we can fine tune that threat assessment to make sure it doesn't happen again. There may be a hole in that threat assessment somewhere. And that's what we try to do. We try to tighten up the system. Most casinos have terrific amounts of threat assessment tools to use in case the situation presents itself. However, in today's world, you rarely see in Vegas a casino getting robbed, and you rarely see people walking out of that casino getting robbed. It's just because of what they've got going in Las Vegas that what you don't have going in Chicago. Everybody in Las Vegas, every security guard, every undercover guy, they're all armed. Everybody has guns. So, and the bad guys know that. So it's less likely that they're gonna take a chance, walking up against 4 or 5 guys that are armed, and if they're armed, the probability of them getting shot is pretty high, because these security guards on the property of the casinos have all the rights in the world to shoot you, and they will do that.
Yeah.
I want to bring up one point here too, based on the victim's narrative to us. He made it very clear that he found out that in terms of this parking garage, there was no security at this parking garage, according to this victim. And again, that the people doing this were targeting people from the inside when they cash out and follow them. And based on that, my question to you is, you mentioned the 3 levels here, the control room, those in uniform, those in plain clothes. So it sounds like there's a gap here somewhere, maybe in all three, maybe in one, but someone clearly isn't seeing or seeing these people who are kind of lingering around cash out. I mean, you would think you would see the people lingering there before this happens.
There's an easy fix, especially at this particular location. I'm not positive, because I have not actually visited the parking lot in question, but I don't believe there is a gate or a guard that you have to pass to leave the parking lot. If they put an armed guard at the exit, if there was a gate that would delay somebody in exiting so the bad guys didn't have a quick, easy way to escape, this would be a little different.
Yeah, very good point there. Both of you gentlemen have been excellent, giving an excellent perspective on something that is unfolding in Chicago, something that impacts a lot of people, impacts the finances of the city as well. So we appreciate both of you coming on Chicago Live today. Thank you so much for your time, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well.
Happy New Year to you.
All right, Happy New Year to you as well. Well, stay with us. We have a lot more coming up right here on Chicago Live. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. The time is now 1:17. We're looking at some of the bigger issues across the city of Chicago, and one that we're going to talk about right now has been happening historically on the west side for quite some time. Neighborhoods like North Lawndale, West Garfield Park, Humboldt Park, and even Austin have historically been hotspots for open-air drug markets. And sadly, within some of those drugs, we know that fentanyl has been detected. And joining us right now is the co-founder and CEO of Defense, Ahmad Hussein. And today, what has happened is Defense has actually partnered with the West Side Heroin and Opioid Task Force to pass out free fentanyl detection devices as part of its ongoing harm reduction and public safety initiatives. It's been happening since around 9 this morning. It will go into 2 this afternoon. We want to bring Ahmad into this conversation. Ahmad, thank you so much for your time and joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm happy that you're here to talk about this because it is such an important issue in our community. Talk about these devices. How do they work? And why are they so important to be passed out to the community?
Yeah, the Defent One is a pocket-sized device. It's intended to be used in any environment. As we all know, consumption happens in more than just the home environment. Typically, people have been using fentanyl test strips, and I think those are a great tool that are best used in a home and controlled environment. Substances are often shared, they're purchased in the street, they're done at music festivals, they're done by blue-collar workers at construction sites. So we created this device to make testing accessible in any environment. It's a few-step process. It fits in your hand, or if it fits in a pocket, it fits in a purse, and it's designed and intended for the user to be used in any environment they're going to consume a substance that they don't purchase from a pharmacy.
You know, we've heard, not just here in Chicago, but across the country, we've heard from families that have had a loved one sadly die because of a fentanyl overdose. Maybe they took a pill, they didn't know it would have fentanyl in it. How does this work for pills? How does this work for drugs that have fentanyl in it? Do you put a little bit of the substance on this device and then it gives you an alarm? Walk me through that process.
Yeah, so great question. So the device comes in this smaller pouch, and within the pouch, obviously you'll have the device, your usual instructions, but within it is also a crush bag, and that bag is intended to be used if somebody's going to test a pill. And I'm glad you brought up pills because that is oftentimes one of the biggest culprit where fentanyl is being laced. People's guards are down when they're consuming, in their mind, a pharmaceutical, but oftentimes, if you look at the DEA website, almost 60% of pills seized by the DEA, they're counterfeit pharmaceuticals, and about 60% of them are laced with fentanyl. A painkiller like a Vicodin or something like that could look like the same one somebody got from their dentist years back. So when they buy one off of TikTok or Snapchat or from even a friend that they're not very sure of where it's coming from, oftentimes those are counterfeit. And that's when the risks are the highest because they're not necessarily thinking what they're about to do is dangerous. People will tend to say, oh, but that doesn't affect me. So making sure that they have a product that they can test any substance as long as it's in powder form. So whether it's a pill, like you mentioned, it uses a fraction of the pill, only about less than 20% of it, and it'll give you an accurate reading. On this little window here, will give you an accurate reading of if there's fentanyl detected. And then on the side of the device is also a key that will let you know what your results mean. In addition, there's an anonymous reporting tool, and that reporting tool is meant for the community to look after the community. So if they tested a substance and they're in Chicago and they tested, say, a Vicodin, for example, they can anonymously report on this reporting tool, and this information is public, so anyone can access it, and they could see, hey, in my community, these type of substances are being found laced with fentanyl. And as you know, if somebody doesn't have an opiate tolerance, even the tiniest bit, like the equivalent of 2 grains of sand, could be a fatal overdose for a user.
I have so many questions for you, but I want to start with this one first. When we look at Chicago, I was just looking at some recent data while you were going through kind of like the testing of different drugs that people can do using your device. I was looking and it says like Chicago, for example, there's been a lot of local initiatives that have reduced overall overdose deaths, but fentanyl remains a major factor in our city's drug crisis. Same thing for Milwaukee, Wisconsin, right up the road, San Francisco, California, Seattle, Philadelphia, Baltimore, DC. My follow-up question to you is, how long have you been doing this? When was this device created? And then have you passed out the defent across the country? Have you done this elsewhere?
Yeah, great question. So this product, the idea was born in 2017. That's when I lost a cousin to fentanyl poisoning. And since after that, I lost, multiple friends to fentanyl poisonings as well. And these are, everyday people. It's not somebody you'd consider as at danger or at risk of a fatal overdose. So knowing that this product, knowing that these substances are affecting all walks of life, it really drove us to create something that people will actually use. So we started working on the development of the product in 2022. It took about 2 years of development, and we launched it, 3 years of development, and we launched it almost exactly a year ago today. The product is, being purchased on Amazon. We work with nonprofits, we work with retailers, we're working with more and more cities to get this product out. But yes, to answer your question, it is being used across the country. We are still obviously looking for more and more retailers to start carrying this product category. Unfortunately, there's not many retailers who sell this category. When we originally started this product about a few years back, almost half the states made this product category illegal to sell. Now we're only down to 4 left that make it illegal to sell. So it's great improvement there. I think companies like Narcan did an amazing job opening up the conversation around harm reduction to make it more accessible and also make it less taboo to even talk about consumption in the first place. I hope this product is used as an icebreaker to open up that conversation between parents and youth, between educators and their peers, because the first step is education and people talking about it. And the next step from there is people actually testing. And whatever product they're going to use, we just want to encourage people to test.
No, you bring up a really good point there, because I've been to festivals, for example, where they pass out, drugs in case of an overdose, but nothing before you get to that point. So what you have here is really innovative. And because of that, I wanted to ask you, first of all, I want to say I'm sorry for all of the losses. You mentioned your cousin and some friends, but it seems as though you turned that pain into purpose. And I wanted to ask you, because of that, how many of these have been passed out? Do you have a number of how many of these have been handed out since 2023?
So we launched a product, like I said, about a year and 15 days ago. So
Okay.
Happy to see a year in the market. There's been already more than 100,000 devices in the market and used and constantly being used. Again, people are buying them, for themselves. When you say passed out, that's just what's been out in the market. Sometimes we're donating them. Sometimes people are buying them off our website. People are buying them on Amazon. We definitely always see an uptake around holidays, summertime. You said music festivals. People are usually planning ahead. So it's great to see that people are now taking responsibility and making these decisions in their own hands, instead of depending on hopefully somebody has Narcan available in case they're overdosing. Narcan doesn't stop an overdose from happening.
Right.
It stops it hopefully from not being fatal. Still, if you don't die from an overdose, it's still a very big deal. And we're hoping that the preventative tools will stop that problem from occurring in the first place.
So you're part of this initiative right now on the West Side, happening today, again happening until 2 o'clock. How did that partnership come to be? And is that the first time that you partner with any agency within the Chicago area?
Yeah, this is one of the first partnerships in Chicago. We're always looking for more and more, and we're always reaching out to harm reduction groups like the West Side Opiate Task Force, because they're on the front lines. They're very connected to their community, and just distributing a wide variety of very beneficial products. We're just pushing to make sure that, in harm reduction, there's not one silver bullet that's going to solve the solution. So you need multiple products, and to meet users where they're at, So yes, this West Side Opiate Task Force is one of the first nonprofits we're working with in Chicago, but we're actively looking for more to make these devices more and more accessible.
And I do want to point out the fact to anyone that's watching that feels like they need one of these devices, you can go right near Chicago Avenue and Kedzie Avenue. It is open to the public, and that event is going all the way to the nearby library that is right there on the ground. Let me ask you this question, because there may be people out there that feel like, this is not helping the drug epidemic, because instead of getting to the root of the problem, you're helping people kind of figure out, what drugs has what in it. What would be your response to that? Because I'm sure you've had some naysayers out there that are on that side of things.
Yeah, I'll happily answer that. And then another negative feedback that we've received in the past, or where people say, we shouldn't be using taxpayer dollars to have harm reduction products. Something that people don't realize is cities, counties, and states have all have a proportion of opiate settlement dollars that they have access to invest in these type of services and other products. Opiate settlement dollars are the result of a class action lawsuit against the corporations who are complicit into this, creating this problem in the first place. And those funds are not taxpayer dollars. They are settlement dollars from a lawsuit where the corporations have to pay into it, and they are designed and designated to spend on responding to the opiate epidemic. So when it comes to the funding, because that's usually the root of the naysaying, and then in addition, when it comes to people say, this could potentially be encouraging drug use, it's actually protecting people to never even end up in that situation. Because like I said before, if somebody's studying for a final in college and they are asking a friend for an Adderall, although we don't condone that, these type of exchanges, they do happen. So it's better that this person, doesn't die from a simple decision or mistake they may have made, because these are people who are not looking to be everyday drug users. They're not looking to not contribute to society. They're just simple people they're just your everyday person making sometime a mistake, but that shouldn't be fatal. And they should have a chance to still live a fulfilling and healthy life ahead. And products like this, whether it's Narcan, fentanyl test strips, education, these are all people helping people have the tools to make informed decisions.
You said this has been on the market since 2024, so a little over a year. As of today, really the year mark right around today, 100,000 of these people have either purchased, they've been passed out. Do you feel like that's 100,000 lives that have been saved?
Well, 100,000 people and uses with the potential of lives saved.
Right.
Because not every time somebody's going to consume something, it's going to have fentanyl in it. But I think more important than what we're trying to do is create a cultural shift to make substance testing the standard. Because if you're going to consume any substance and you're always able to find out that there's not fentanyl in it, well, ultimately what's going to happen is people start testing at the time of purchase instead of just the time of consumption. Where if you have testing common practice, people will not be able to sell substances that are laced, because at the time of purchase, somebody already knows, like, yeah, I'm not buying that because that's laced. And then what you're going to do is we could ultimately disrupt the drug supply chain, where we can make drugs that are laced completely unsellable in the market. And that's, I think, the bigger solution that we're going after. When you mentioned earlier of the naysayers saying, you're not addressing the root problem. This is how you address the root problem. Governments on either side of the parties have been trying to stop drugs coming into the country. And I don't think anybody's really ever pulled that off. This actually gives users the power in their own hands. Instead of depending on somebody else keeping them safe, they could keep themselves safe.
I wanted to ask you, as we approach 2026, is there a new city or a potential state that has reached out to you, or that you plan to have boots on the ground in as a result of, recently, I don't want to say recently, but recently in some ways, putting this on the market just a year ago?
Yeah, so we've had some pretty good success here I'm actually originally from Chicago. I went to DePaul. I grew up in Chicago, but I've been living in Los Angeles. We've had some pretty good success here in LA County and other municipalities locally. We're really hoping to create more and more use in the Midwest of these devices. and then hopefully expand to the East Coast as well. You know, when it comes to substance safety, I think it's a bipartisan issue and affects all walks of life, no matter your demographic, no matter your race, gender, socioeconomic status. I think everyone is potentially at risk. So we're really just trying to get mass adoption around the country.
I want to give you an opportunity because someone may end up seeing this video somehow that may have a drug problem potentially, or they want to gift this to someone just to make sure that they're safe. Maybe they have a college student, like you mentioned, and they don't know what they're doing. Where can they go and purchase one of these, and what is the typical cost?
Yeah, they can go online and purchase them. The easiest way is off our website, which is defend.com, or on Amazon. You can buy them on Amazon, and if you buy them on Amazon in most cities, they'll arrive to your house the next day, which is convenient. We've all grown accustomed to that convenience. But I think the most important message is really just opening up the conversation. I think oftentimes, especially I'm a parent as well, my kids are still younger, but I think it is challenging to have these type of taboo conversations. And I think a good icebreaker could be like, hey, if you're around, instead of some parents might have a harder time accepting their kid might be consuming a substance, but a good start would say, take this device. If you're not going to use it, at least share it with a friend who might. I think that's a good way to get the conversation started. These retail for $10. Again, that's even with shipping if somebody was to buy it off Amazon. So it's an affordable way to keep somebody safe. We've even had parents say they're using them for stocking stuffers this past Christmas. So really, again, I think the most important thing is just having the conversation, an open and honest one.
And here's a follow-up question, because I don't know if you mentioned this or not. Is this a device that is single use, or you can keep using this one device several times?
Yeah, great question. We do get that a lot. It is single use, and the reason it's single use, just like typical testing products like a COVID test or pregnancy test, to maintain the integrity and accuracy of the product, it has to be single use.
Got it. Makes sense to me. And I'm looking at something online that says, in some cases, I know today we're talking about the west side of Chicago where they're being handed out to people that walk up and want one for free, but you've also given out devices for free at some music festivals as well. What music festivals?
Yeah, being from Chicago, and I'm sure you know very well of it, is Lollapalooza. We had a very successful outreach campaign where we were giving out devices outside of the festival, and people loved it, and I think when I bring up the idea of having it for a friend, we had many people say, I don't need this for myself, but I actually know somebody in mind that I want to share it with. So we've had some really good outreach success with music festivals, and we hope to continue to do that this summer as well.
Do you think you'll be back at Lollapalooza for this coming?
Yeah, we'd love to. We'd love to. And we've also done some stuff here locally in Los Angeles, but we'd love to be back at Lollapalooza this summer.
All right. Well, Ahmad Hussein, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you about this really life-changing device that it seems like you've created here. Thank you so much for your time, and also Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you too. Thank you for your time.
All right, it was a pleasure. All right, well, stay with us. We're going to be talking to the folks over in Waukegan about this new police station that is in the works. They're moving ahead with the plans to build this new modern state-of-the-art police station. We'll talk about it right after this break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. If you've been to Waukegan, it's no doubt that you've seen right next to City Hall portions of this police station that dates back all the way to 1935 and even the 1960s. Well, guess what? There are plans in the works that will move forward to build a new modern police station, potentially at the site of a former hotel, to replace the current police station that is right there downtown. And here to talk about this with us is Chief Edgar Navarro of the Waukegan Police Department. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you. I gotta update you. I'm Deputy Chief Craig Neal. Chief Navarro was unable to sit in for this afternoon.
Well, that's okay. We'll take you too. Hi, Deputy Chief.
I appreciate it.
And who's there with you?
This is Dave Motley, one of our public relations specialists.
Hi, Dave. It's good to
Thanks
have
for the
both of you. Okay, so let's talk about this. You know, when I think about an older building, you know, here at Fox 32, we had our own, I guess you would say, renovation project. We didn't start from the ground up, but we did renovate what was around us. It was like an old school, you know, I would say elementary school at one point. What are some of the issues that you're having there in terms of the configuration that calls for a need for a new police station?
Well, it's funny that you give us the history of your building, because one of the interesting things to note about our police department is it's a former fire department, and we expanded into our old city hall. So our building was retrofitted to become a police department, and we're facing some of the same challenges that you're probably already familiar with.
You know, one of the things that comes up when people in any community, it doesn't matter where it is, Waukegan, Chicago, anywhere else, people start hearing new and they think taxes. They think this is going to come out of my wallet somehow. Can you talk about where the money will come from, or if that has been officially worked out for this new police station?
Well, it hasn't officially been worked out. We're in the very preliminary stages of trying to get this project up and running. There are other examples of possibilities. There are bonds that some communities have went out for to assist with projects such as this. Where we will end up at this point, we truly don't know. But this would be a very wise investment for our community, because ultimately this new police department will show the rebuild Waukegan commitment that our mayor is pushing for his agenda, and it will be a benefit to our entire city. So we're going to have to see how the funds will come together. But in the end, I think everybody's going to be very happy with what we have to offer.
And I think I'll add to that the city council and the current administration are both in support of this endeavor. And everyone is putting their heads together to try to identify solutions and also locations for this opportunity.
Deputy Chief Neal, I want to ask you this because I remember, you know, if somebody were to ask me what were my frustrations before our renovation project, I could give you a whole list. I'm curious from your perspective, and maybe you can even answer this for some of your officers there as well, what has been maybe top of mind in terms of the most annoying or frustrating thing because that building is older and isn't state of the art?
Well, it's funny you should ask that. One of the things we've grown accustomed to having some comfort in is just your restroom facilities. Our restroom facilities were very old. Some of them still are outdated, but we had to make an immediate investment just to keep up with plumbing issues and to offer our people something that would resemble what they would expect of a building such as ours. So our bathroom was frustrating to go in at one point, and now we have a facility that we were able to update and provide some new fixtures, but we're still in need of much more improvement.
Yeah, and you know what I think about, I know we were kind of touching on costs there. Anything older, especially when you start going back, you know, we're talking 30s, you're pouring more money into it than if you were to overall look at the big picture and build something new. So I understand that perspective as well. Can you tell me about some of the sites that are kind of under consideration for this and why those particular locations, if you have identified some?
Well, there's one property that has been identified. It's the site of our former Ramada Hotel that's since been leveled, and it's available. It's on a nice stretch of highway, Green Bay Road, which will allow us plenty of access to the community, north, south, east, and west. Um, Outside of that property, it's very difficult to say because we don't have a lot of vacant land that will allow us to build. So that's one of our hopes, is that this property ends up being something that works out for us.
Now, if you move out of that location and into a new space, has there been anything talked about in terms of what will happen with the old police station? And do you expect to find some old artifacts, if that building does indeed come down?
You never know until you start digging for the artifacts. There's always a surprise when you're building. So we'll have to wait to see what news comes of that piece. So if we were to make this transition, we're a large city. We're 10th largest in the state of Illinois, and we have many needs. Our city hall expanded a few years ago, and they've already stretched out what their offering is. So there's quite a few things that the older building might be able to accommodate. But again, we're so early in the process, and we're trying to keep our focus on the police department so we don't get sidetracked, that we don't have a lot of projects for the potential of what all the empty space would be able to provide in the future.
Yeah, it's really interesting because that courthouse that you have there is newer. And then you go a few blocks away to where you guys are. You're kind of cramped there. The parking lot isn't ideal. If you need to pull up, if you're somebody that wants to make a police report, there's not a lot of parking. Anything that you would like to see in this new location that you currently don't have that you would like to see at this new police station in the future?
Well, one of the things that we're strong believers in is we need to bring the community into the police department. The future of policing is a strong community policing base. And by allowing the community to come in with a community room, to be able to do programs, to be able to allow young children to come in, see police officers while they do an art and a craft, it will be tremendous for what our law enforcement experience would be here in the city of Waukegan. So that's one of my hopes, is that we're able to provide the community with a community room inside of the police department where we build trust and we have that interaction between the community members and the police department, hopefully on a daily basis.
I know you started there in 2001. I have your resume pulled up here. So you've been there a very long time. When you first walked into that building in 2001, did you feel like it needed some upgrades then? Because here we are a few years later and we're still talking about, obviously there's a new police station needed.
Unfortunately, I'm a little bit older since 2001.
Oh, you've been there longer than 2001?
Oh, no. I'm saying that I'm older in age.
Oh, okay.
When I was 22 years old versus the age that I've come to at this point, is two different experiences. My first day coming into this police department, I was so excited. I thought this was the biggest place in the world. I remember getting lost in the maze of a building that we had. And keep in mind, at that time, half of the building was our city hall.
Right.
So here it is. I'm a young pup. I'm so excited to become a police officer and what new career opportunities would present themselves. And I'm inside this building and I got big eyes and I got just all these grand ideas. So that was my first experiences. Man, I thought this was the biggest place in the world and I was so happy to be a part of it.
No, I understand that perspective. That's how I felt too when I walked into what was like an elementary school. So I do understand. Anything else that you would want the public to know about this as you move through this process and in the next phases of all of this?
One of the things I want to assure our community and all of our business partners here in Waukegan is that our ultimate focus is still bringing the best of public safety to the city of Waukegan, which ultimately will keep our community safe. We want to make sure that we remain competitive in this competitive market of law enforcement. We want to be the premier destination on the North Shore for police officers to come to. I can assure you from my experiences with our state's attorney's office and this community and what the resources and needs are here, that this is a great opportunity for any person who's interested in a career in law enforcement. But with that, our headquarters have to be top notch. We have to be able to stay up to par with surrounding areas and different things that other people are doing. And this will be icing on the cake because we do a great job currently. And with this new headquarters, I'm just excited about what the future possibilities will be.
Okay, one final question, and this is for both of you. If you could envision one thing that has to be a part of this new modern police station, what would it be?
For me, I would say a community room. To the chief's part of his conversation was related to embracing and including the community. I think we need to have some type of facility in the police station that would accommodate community groups and community meeting space.
And I would add to that ultimately we want a state-of-the-art training facility. The community and people in general want to make sure that their police officers are well trained and prepared for the challenges that this 21st century brings. With that state-of-the-art facility, we can make sure that our staff routinely gets the proper training that they need, and our community will be better served if we're able to meet that expectation.
That's a very good point. There's all kind of stuff out there now involving policing AI, different kind of tools that officers can use, de-escalation tactics, etc. Gentlemen, we appreciate both of you taking time out of your busy schedule to come on and talk about this important topic. Thank you so much, and I'm sure we'll have you back as this process moves along.
Thank you for thinking of us until we meet again.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Until we meet again. Happy New Year. All right, well, stay with us right here on Chicago Live. We have a lot more coming up. We're just moving so fast through this show for it to be the last show of 2025. We're going to be talking to hopefully Paris Schutz, our political reporter, coming up about this school budget, a little bit of drama. We're going to talk about that. And then I find this very interesting. We're also going to be talking to some folks about this car-free community. So there's this community out there where there are homes, but there's no driveway. There's no place to park that car because cars aren't allowed. It's car-free. We're going to talk to them about that as well. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Joining me right now is our political reporter, Paris Schutz, really political expert, I would say as well. But apparently there was a whole lot of drama surrounding you. This was a public meeting. You put out a tweet.
Right.
And this had everything to do with the school board here in Chicago. Talk about it.
All right, so I had 4 school board members call me and tell me, then this was a meeting they had yesterday where they're voted. They voted to raise the property tax levy $25 million for CPS, just specifically for CPS. Very quickly, I think because I've gotten a lot of stuff on Twitter, like people are confused. How can the schools just raise property taxes? I thought the mayor or city council had to do that. And that's a great question. It's good to dig into the distinction here. So the school system and the city are two completely separate forms of government, even though the mayor traditionally has always appointed the school board members. Obviously, that's changing now with the elected school board, but they've had their own ability to levy taxes. They have their own tax levy, and that's 54% of your property tax bill is CPS. So anyway, hopefully that clarified that.
So wait, I do have a follow-up based on what you said there before we get to the tweet.
Yeah.
So this means that if you live in the city of Chicago, based on what they voted on, your property tax bill will be more.
It will be. The average property tax bill between $15 and $20 for this $25 million. So I mean, it's it's not huge, but it's not nothing, and you nickel and dime people, and it really has an impact.
It adds up.
And this is state law allows the school district to increase property taxes every year by inflation or by 5%, whatever number is lower. So the board goes and they do vote to extend it every single year to the max allowed under state law, as they did this year. So it's not unusual. It was just unusual the way this meeting
was
about.
handled.
Yeah.
Was handled.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
walk me through this tweet and what transpired thereafter.
So,
because you were just doing your job.
So this was about 4 board members calling me and telling me that this is what happened. I had gotten word that this special meeting was scheduled for this week, and I tweeted it last week. I just tweeted the notice of the meeting, or I said, oh, by the way, they're going to meet to consider this property tax hike. What I was told yesterday was the board president, Sean Harden, took all the board members and showed my tweet on a screen saying, I'm going to catch the leaker. And when I do, I'm going to force their resignation. This is what multiple board members told me. Now, this is a public meeting. They have an obligation to let the public know about this. The second thing is, you would hope that our elected officials are talking to the media. I wouldn't consider it a leak if elected officials are talking to the media. We want them to talk to the media. And third, I don't give up sources. You don't give up sources.
Nobody
but I'll
does.
say that nobody on the board leaked the news of that meeting to me. That was not that's not where
What
that
happened.
came from.
Right.
So it's unusual, and it was alarming to some board members that he was focusing this much emotion and energy on the fact that this had gotten out to the press, and the threats that came out of it, trying to really control the message. And so we reported that part of it too, because
as you should.
That what these board members were saying is it sounded like he wanted to retaliate for someone allegedly leaking to the press. It sounded like he didn't want this to be known that this public meeting was going to take place, and that's troubling. That's troubling, to hear from an elected official, because you want that openness of information, and as reporters, you know this better than anybody. You do need people sometimes talking to you.
Yes, you do.
Under the cover of off the record, under the cover of being an anonymous source, because sometimes it is dangerous for them, or sometimes you just need to get information that way, and do your due diligence in terms of the veracity of it or the motivation of someone doing that. But again, I'll just say all that to say that that's not where I did not get that from a board member. Yeah.
But had you gotten it from a board member, it was a public meeting.
Public meeting, yeah.
So it wouldn't matter.
You would want board members to do everything in their power to let the public know this meeting was going to take place. And we were told only one public commenter showed up yesterday. Typically these public meetings, you have lots of public commenters that come up and they have their minute or so to make their statement. There was only one yesterday, and they heard about it from the tweet, I was told.
So here's my question.
They designed this so that people didn't know.
My question is, when there is a public meeting, there is also a responsibility from a public perspective of how they put that information out. What didn't they do in this case of putting it out that only one person showed up?
Well, it's got to be on their website, on the board website, that this meeting, all their meetings. When I went on it yesterday morning before this meeting, I did not see a notice of this meeting. It said next meeting January something. 20-something. Mm-hmm. They're saying there was notice on the website. Unfortunately, I didn't screen grab the website. Right. I guess I should have. So I don't know. And they have to put notice of this. I mean, In the past, it meant putting, notice on the bulletin board
Right.
outside the.
Back in the day.
Yeah,
right.
back in the day, you tack it up to the bulletin board, hope notice of a meeting. I think they have to do the website at least. And I did not see it, but I was told it was there. So I don't know how to square that one.
And it's not fair to the public who you're
Right.
now asking to foot the bill for
Yeah.
this. It's
I
not
mean,
fair
and-
not to give them the right to say
No.
something.
And when you're parents of public school children, every body of government, most of us kind of walk around our day-to-day life. We're not paying attention to who's meeting when.
Right,
But there
right.
are a group of people that are paying close attention,
Yes.
especially parents of public school children that want to know the policies that are going to dictate their kids' school day. So they do pay attention to this, and they show up, or they'll spread it on Facebook, and they show up and make their comments. You see this at CPS all the time. There's a dedicated group of the public that's there keeping track and letting their feelings known, and that just didn't happen yesterday because of the fact that this was it's not that they didn't let people know, like it didn't just happen out of secret, but the way
It was done.
that it was done ensured that few people would know about this. And I was even told by some board members that they were confused themselves about what, they had gotten an email from the board president, and it was like, oh, by the way, we're going to have a special meeting on December 29th to vote on the $25 million property tax increase. Hope you can make it,
Yeah.
Um,
By the way.
they
kind of
were
thing.
confused
Yeah.
about it. Like, wait a second, like we're on break. We have to call everybody back in. We have to call the staff back in. That costs money.
Right.
And that's the other thing about this was Board President Hardin, there was going to be a vote on this at a regularly scheduled meeting in December, and he canceled that vote.
meeting.
Now, the speculation is because this was around the time Mayor Johnson was in his budget fight, and he's saying, I'm not raising property taxes. I'm the guy that's not raising property taxes. Well, how is that going to look when you've got your hand-picked school board president saying, well, we're going to have this vote and probably going to raise your property taxes? So the speculation was that's why they canceled the vote then, for messaging, for the public perception purposes.
Can you talk to me, Pierce, because I know you know a lot about this in terms of, first of all, let's start here. If you go outside right now and talk to anybody that owns property in Chicago, they're going to say they're being taxed through the roof. Okay, right?
Yeah.
So $15, $20, whatever. People are sick and tired of paying.
Yeah, and
They're
that
sick
was
of it.
and the five board members that voted no on this. And by the way, it's an unusual vote to vote no to say we're going to turn down $25 million in
Right.
extra money to the school system, because they do vote for this every year. But these five members, that's what they said, is like, I'm talking to residents on the South Side, my neighbors who are like we're our healthcare costs are up, our taxes
Yes,
are up,
everything.
groceries are up. Like this is just adding insult to injury, and so that's why they voted no. And so that was their argument. But 15 board members voted yes, no, the school system needs this money, and
that's, where is that money going? They need it for what?
I think it was the Sun Times that did a nice breakdown, and I have to go back and look at the breakdown, but a good, I think $10 million of it, of property tax money, is going to teacher pensions. So that doesn't even sniff the classroom. That's just going to these obligations that are already owed, the debt that's already incurred on pensions. So that's tens of millions of property tax money. It's just going to pay pensions.
Right. And so the question is, because they do vote on this every year, at what point is the increase enough? You see what I mean? Like, that's what people are
Well, what
tired
they'll
of.
say is it's part of inflation, though, so that we need the increase because inflation has made costs go up, so it's only fair that we collect more property tax money. And that's what the mayor was kind of leaning into, though, with the city, is like, I'm not going to raise property taxes because of that. But on the other end of that coin, then you raise all these other taxes and fees, and those could hurt Chicagoans even more.
Right. And could equal just as if you had raised them to some degree.
It's going to, people are going to pay somehow. And there's no free lunch, obviously, especially when you have a city government that has racked up all these bills over the years that it's not paying, the pensions especially, that it can't even tread water on. It's astonishing. We've covered this many years, but every year they kind of just patch this together. It's like MacGyvering a budget together every year.
And
when you've got an
sustainable.
underlying problem where the costs are like this and the money coming in is like this, so what are you going to do about that?
It's the sustainability factor. Like, how long can this keep working? Like,
Really,
that's the
like-
question.
We're one economic downturn, I think, away from saying now we're bankrupt,
Right.
Now, the city can't legally declare bankruptcy. State law doesn't allow it to. But, I mean, okay, then what do you say? We just owe all this debt we can't pay. It's already on the verge of not being able to pay what it owes on pensions for the folks that are already retired.
Right.
So, is it going to take the city defaulting on that payment to retirees to finally, everyone say we're in an emergency and we need some kind of... I was just watching a documentary about New York in the 70s. They declared bankruptcy, New York City,
Right.
in the 70s because of the same reason. And they had to find a way out of it by not paying. You go into bankruptcy, you pay a certain amount of money on the debt that you owe, but you can't pay all of it. And
No.
that's the bankruptcy deal. Can't do that here. The state law doesn't allow it. And so then what? What happens?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
You either cut to the bone. I mean, really, logically, you have to cut to the bone and tax.
That's what I'm saying. It's not
that's
sustainable.
That's the only way the
though.
math works.
But it's not sustainable for a lot of the homeowners. We can't assume.
No.
$15 may sound like very small, minuscule money to somebody out there that's watching this, but for someone, that is like a meal or not.
Well, they're budgeting every dollar every year when they're going to the treasurer's office at Cook County and writing their check for the property tax,
Right.
Unless they have it in escrow. And but that's not to say, Chicago, the property taxes are still, I think, relatively favorable compared to the suburbs. I mean, this is a state
That's
problem.
true.
This is a suburban
That's true.
problem, a Cook County problem, a DuPage County problem.
Yeah, it's bigger than Chicago.
It's bigger than
County.
Chicago, and some might argue that property taxes in Chicago have not kept pace with the costs. Mayor Daley was terrified of ever raising property taxes, so he sold the Skyway. He sold the parking meters. And so you had all these years where you didn't raise property taxes, but costs went up, and now we're in this mess. So it's an unenviable set of decisions that leaders face. And, Mayor Johnson campaigned on, well, I'm going to do progressive revenue. The wealthiest are going to pay. And unfortunately, he's needed Springfield to approve some of that kind of this state level stuff. And he hasn't been able to do it. We're having Mayor Johnson on, by the way,
I know.
in
I was
about
going
an
to
hour.
ask you about
That's a good
that.
segue.
It is a good segue.
He has not been able to get success in Springfield to get some of these progressive revenue options, to pay for, and the corporate head tax crashed and burned because the business community organized.
Yeah, they
and
said no way.
No way. Yeah.
So let me just ask you this as a final question. That interview that you're going to have with Mayor Johnson, where can the folks that are watching this watch that later on?
Chicago Report, 10 p.m. tonight. It's going to be freezing, so cozy up with a nice little interview before you go out on New Year's Eve tomorrow. And then on the 4 and 5 News, Tia, we'll
Break it down?
We'll break it down.
What are
for
you talking about with him? Is it the taxes or I'm sorry, the budget?
I'm always happy to have the mayor, so we want to talk about everything. It's the end of the year. Crime is down, and it could be, a 10-year low in homicides that we end the year. We should talk about that. What made it work, and what can the city double down on to keep that trend going? Although, you hear a lot of people say, well, I don't feel safer. I still see mass shootings in the Loop and in Auburn Gresham. Yesterday there was a shooting and wherever. And so it's like you can talk about numbers, but it's about feeling and perception. We still
For a
don't
lot
feel
of people.
safe for a lot of
True.
people. Yeah. So we'll get into all those things. And then New Year's, he's supporting
Big
a curfew
deal.
for
Yeah.
teens on New Year's,
He
10
is.
p.m. curfew, which is, he's not a fan of curfews, but he's supporting it for this. So we'll dig into
Please
why.
find out why.
We'll find out why.
this and why not
Well,
any
I
other
would,
day out of curiosity?
this is going to be a big national New Year's celebration.
And you don't want to be embarrassed.
on another network. Nationally, you don't want to be
Yeah, you
embarrassed.
don't want to be embarrassed.
I mean, imagine the story that'll be nationally if that happens. People will be waiting to pounce on that.
I agree, but you should consider looking at other options, I think, throughout the year, not just because people are watching. What about the residents that live here that have had to deal with some of this?
Well,
people have asked those
that
questions.
curfew debate is always raging. There's a lot of people that feel like absolutely parents should know where their kids are if they're under 18 after 10 o'clock or a certain time. Others are like, this is impinging on people's freedom. Kids do have the freedom to go to anywhere in the city that they want, and And that's always a burning debate, and a good debate. A good debate.
It is a good debate. It is a good
there's
debate.
Good arguments all around.
I agree, absolutely.
Yeah.
But at what point should a child not be outside? Is the question.
Or should a parent?
Or should a parent be held
or
responsible?
a guardian, be held responsible for what happens? And that's another part of the debate: is do you start fining the parents, for violation?
Because we've heard that in other Midwestern places. I believe Detroit tried something like that we talked about before.
There's not enough time. I mean, I would love to ask the mayor all these things.
I know.
These are all good questions.
Maybe
So-
he'll do a 2-hour
Hey,
interview.
you
with
can
me.
email, find us on
ahead.
Twitter or email
Sorry,
to
I'm gonna
ask,
scratch
come up with, no worries. Come up with question ideas in the next hour. I'm always happy to look for ideas.
All right. Well, you're always working hard, Paris Schutz.
You too, Tia.
That is the truth.
And I know you got an update on that awful dog story.
I know.
Oh.
We will have that update on the news around 4:30ish. And of course, in the 5 o'clock hour. Okay, Paris, it was a pleasure.
Tia.
Make sure you
You as
tune
well.
in. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Maybe you're like, you know what? My neighbor's car is just way too loud, and I wish they didn't have a car at all. Well, there's actually a community that is just like that. It is considered to be absolutely car-free. In fact, they don't even have driveways. Ryan Johnson is the co-founder and CEO of Cul-de-sac Tempe and is joining us right now. This is in Arizona. Thank you so much for joining us. I find this to be absolutely fascinating. Considered to be the first car-free neighborhood in America. And it's been 2 years since all of this happened. Let's talk about it. How did this even come to be?
Thanks for having me on. So this was inspired by, I'm a kid who grew up in the suburbs of Phoenix and had an SUV. And then I went to Budapest and saw that it was a much better way to build a city than the sprawl of Phoenix, with plazas and great transportation, and it was lively with people around, and they were healthier, and retailers knew their neighbors. And I wanted to bring that back to the US. And the conviction came because of the transportation technologies that are happening over the last decade. And we're on the cusp of those technologies leading to the biggest change to cities in our lifetime, with Lyft and Uber, electric bikes, electric scooter, hourly car rentals, and the big one is going to be AV ride hail, such as Waymo. And that's allowing people to use a portfolio of transportation options instead of having a private vehicle. And what that does for the neighborhood is that lets us have 50 courtyards and a plaza and 20 retailers, and it creates a happier, healthier community. We designed for a culture of belonging, transportation freedom, and thriving local businesses.
Okay, we got to talk more about this. I'm really intrigued now. You got my ears perked up. Let me sit up in my seat. I want to talk to you about this. So, here there are apartment buildings, for example, and maybe, based on where they are in downtown, there's no parking garage or, no real places to park except for street parking. Is there even street parking at this location?
The parking that we have is for our retailers, and those retailers are booming because this is a great place to visit, and we have more visitors every day than we have residents.
Talk about the visitors. How many people come on a daily basis? And then I want you to talk about the project, how much it costs to do this, how many apartment units are available, all of that.
We have 400 residents, and we have maybe 500 people that come visit every day, and it can be over 1,000 on days when we throw markets. And this project costs similar to what it costs to build other new projects, but what it means is that instead of a sea of asphalt, we get 55% landscape space, beautiful plazas, beautiful courtyards, a wonderful gym, and all this retail right here.
So it's car free. You can obviously, if you wanted to, get, Waymo or something like that, but residents don't have cars physically parked there. Has there been talk about more developments coming in the area or even elsewhere?
So we're building our next project in Mesa, which is a suburb right next to Tempe, and there's 25 acres right next to downtown. And that's going to show that there's more examples of this. And there's demand for walkable neighborhoods all over the country. The National Association of Realtors, they do a study every 3 years, and the majority of every generation would pay more to live in a walkable neighborhood, including 92% of Gen Z. And real estate developers and cities are waking up to this. And the biggest reason we don't have more walkable neighborhoods is that they're illegal. And it's because we've mandated parking and made it so that developers have to build the sprawl in cities. And that's why the neighborhoods that were built before cars, places in Chicago, places like New York, obviously Europe, those are the places that have the highest prices where people want to live. And it's because we're not building enough walkable neighborhoods. But that's changing, and people are waking up to this.
It sounds like a place where you would live and you really don't have to leave for much. You talked about the retailers. Are there grocery stores? Are there convenience stores where you literally can stay in your community and not have to travel far?
So of the 20 retailers, we have a market on site. We have a wonderful restaurant, a coffee shop, lots of activities, lots of cute shops. And also, this is not on the edge of the city. This is right on the light rail line. And we worked with the city, and they built a protected bike lane that goes from the light rail up to an outdoor mall that has 12 restaurants. And you can really live your life and have access to all the things in the city that you already had. And the average American now spends $1,100 a month on their car when you take into account the payments, the insurance, and the repairs. And that leaves a lot of budget for more housing, more childcare, more healthcare, and transportation services. And so this is not about taking away something. This is actually a better life.
No, you bring up a very good point. I just saw something and I was trying to find it real quick. It came out, I saw it, I thought it was like a few days ago, and it was. The Wall Street Journal actually put it out. Car payments now average more than $750 a month. So you're absolutely right. You add that plus insurance, upkeep, through the roof, absolutely every single month. I'm just curious. I want to go through a few questions with you here, and I'll start out with this one. In my neighborhood, when it hits 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning, I could kind of hear all the cars from every different house. I'm like, okay, so-and-so's leaving for work now. That's the time they usually have to leave for work, so they're driving. What is it like in your community there when it's time for people to start moving and getting to work? What do you see? Do you see an influx of Waymo? Do you see people going to the light rail? Do you see e-bikes? Is it a culmination of all of those things?
All of those things. Transportation freedom means choosing the right mode for a given trip. And the most popular is the light rail. Our residents also use buses, electric bikes, electric scooters, regular bikes, Lyft, Uber, Waymo, and hourly car rental.
Have you heard anything in terms of environmentalists, what this has done for the environment there?
The best thing that we can do for climate is to enable more people to live in a walkable neighborhood. And the wonderful news is that most people actually prefer it. And so we just need to build more.
Talk to you about feedback from residents there. What have you heard from residents? Have you had anybody there that maybe in the past they did solely rely on their car? They gave it up, they lived there happily ever after?
Yeah, that's something that we see frequently. Once they realize that it's wonderful to live this way and they get to live in a place like this, we see lots of people that give up their cars before moving here. And people are happy and they love it. And the connections that people form here, 70% of residents say they have a close friend at cul-de-sac. Actually, yesterday we just had our second proposal at cul-de-sac, and the community feels radically different from what you find at a typical housing in the U.S.
It's interesting because I was going to ask you about the love connection. And the only reason that my mind went there was because I would think, more time to kind of like stand around, wait for a car to come, or wait for the light rail, wait for the bus. And so it would force you to have more conversation, be more of a community, maybe as versus your car. You get in your car, you're by yourself, you don't have to talk to anybody. That was kind of my first thought. But you said this is the second proposal, so there was a first. Tell me about those.
So the first proposal for which? The first proposal was mine. I got engaged, and I moved in with my fiance here.
Oh, awesome. So you and now this new couple. Do you think this theory, the way that this is all set up, do you think this is a project that would work in the city like Chicago?
Absolutely. Chicago has some great walkable areas. My mom and my sister have both lived in Chicago and chose those areas because that's where people want to live. And it's a real tragedy that there's not more of them. And the best parts have become so expensive and we're just not building enough and people don't have that choice. And Chicago will have many more walkable neighborhoods, and developers and cities are really realizing that. Again, one of the biggest obstacles is that walkable neighborhoods have effectively been illegal to build for decades now. And the biggest piece of feedback we get when people visit cul-de-sac is, I want to have this where I am. And we've had mayors from all over the country reach out and say, can you build something here?
I want you to talk to me about the units that you offer there. I'm on the website right now. I'm curious, is this a setup where oftentimes it's a party of one that's living in these apartments? You mentioned the proposal. Do you see kind of like newlyweds staying there? What is the typical resident like? And in terms of age as well?
So we see from all walks of life. And it pairs up with that survey that the National Association of Realtors did, where every generation, the majority prefer to live in a walkable neighborhood. And that's reflected in who we see here. We have families, we have people who are retired, we have young professionals, we have everyone.
Yeah, and I'm looking, you have 1 bedrooms. Looks like you go up to 2 bedrooms, or is it even more than that?
We have 3 bedrooms. We're sold out right now. This has been very popular. We're 95% full, and that's why we're building more.
Wow. So you're building more. What area are you going to next?
Next, we're going to cul-de-sac Mesa, and it's 25 acres. Mesa's now about the 35th largest city in the country, and they are an up-and-coming city, and their downtown is becoming fantastic. They have a new Arizona State University campus, and we're working on the plans for that one right now. It's going to be a wonderful project, and it's going to be the first new housing built in their downtown core since the 80s. And we've had so many people say they can't wait until we're selling those units. We also have a couple smaller pocket neighborhood projects in Atlanta. We actually just finished the first one this month, and those are for sale now.
I'm looking at some of the retailers. You have a barber shop there. You have like arts and crafts there. You have restaurant. You have boba a place there. You have a cafe, coffee shop. All the things are right there. In terms of this, right now, these are apartments where people will rent. Have you looked at any potential of this being a development where people would own?
Absolutely. We have a pocket neighborhood townhomes for sale in Atlanta right now, and we have a second project of those delivering in 6 months. And our first phase in Mesa will be for sale townhomes. We hear lots of people that love renting, and we also hear lots of people that want to own, and we want to have all those options.
So Ryan, I must ask you this question. So are you telling me you have no car at all?
15 years.
15 years, no car. So what are your modes of transportation that you typically use?
I use all of them based on different trips. I use the light rail, I use buses. I'm a big fan of electric bikes. I have 60 of them. And I take Lyft.
Wait. You have 60 electric bikes?
Yeah, that's my hobby because it's not just a little bit different than a bike. It's a radically different mode of transportation. And as more people try it, and as cities build better bike infrastructure, it really complements people's lives, and it's an active lifestyle.
I have never met a person that has 60 electric bikes. When did you first start buying them? I got so many questions for you now, Ryan.
It turns out that the average price of a new car in the U.S. is approaching $50,000, and it turns out when you don't have a car, you get a lot more budget for other things, including childcare, healthcare, and hobbies. And so I started this during COVID because it was a way to get out of the house, and it was a great way to socialize with people, and I wanted to go on group rides. And then I started writing about it, and the industry is really showing people that it's this new mode of transportation. We have, and actually the biggest electric bike company is here in Phoenix. It's called Electric, and you can buy a fantastic bike for $1,000.
Wow, that is really impressive. I must ask you, because there are a lot of people out there, they feel like this is sustainable either when you're retired, so you're kind of on the going, a little higher in age, and then kind of early on in your life, maybe Gen Z, no kids typically. Do you think this lifestyle works for people that have 2 and 3 kids? And the only reason I ask that is because I've heard naysayers say that it's not sustainable. You got to carry all of these things when you have kids. You got to worry about the groceries. Now you got to worry about the baby bag, the car seat. Well, maybe not a car seat depending on your mode of transportation, but the carrier for the baby.
Yeah, absolutely. We have plenty of families here. We actually, a family just had their second kid, and the other residents organized a meal train for them. And so we knew it would be hard to compete with the minivan, but these transportation modes are improving, and there's lots of benefits to being car free. And what those families love is having the plazas and courtyards, where living in a place where they know their neighbors, and they live in a safer place. One of the biggest anxieties for parents is my child safe around cars?
Yes, very true. Next time we have you on, we got to have you give us a live tour of the place. It has been a pleasure talking to you. I think this is very interesting. And clearly there are a lot of people in Chicago that are living in different communities here that don't have a car, and they're living and existing just fine. So it's not something that you must have, but I like that you guys have worked it out where you made it like a more eco-friendly lifestyle for people, and they don't have to rely on going too far for a grocery store, market, etc. So Ryan Johnson, it has been a pleasure. Happy New Year to you.
You too. Take care.
All right. Take care. Thank you so much. Hey, thank you guys so much for sticking with us. We are still rolling through the show. We have a lot more for you coming up. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. If you are just joining us on this Tuesday, this is 2:27 in the afternoon. We appreciate you for sticking with us and watching our program to see all the exciting interviews that we have coming up, including this one. Very interesting and something that I think the public definitely needs to know. A Chicago nonprofit. It is called the Brighton Park Neighborhood Council and also the American Federation of Teachers. They have filed a lawsuit. They're suing the U.S. Department of Education, and this is over funding cuts to a program that has provided wraparound services to students in high poverty and rural areas. So sounds like that funding won't be there anymore. We want to bring in the Brighton Park Neighborhood Council's Executive Director, Patrick Brosnan, to talk more about this. Patrick, thank you so much for your time today and coming on to talk about this important subject.
Thank you.
Let's talk about this complaint. What does this mean if that funding is no longer there? What does it mean for these programs, and what kind of wraparound services are we talking about?
Well, the Brighton Park Neighborhood Council, in partnership with Chicago Public Schools and Act Now, which is a statewide after-school advocacy and community school support agency, received these funds from the U.S. Department of Education in 2024. So we were finishing our first full year of programming and our first semester. Obviously, we started last semester, so we're ending this program now. Unfortunately, we found out about this termination notice about 2 weeks ago. It was completely without warning, and it will result in all of our after-school programs, our academic tutoring support programs, our SEL programming, mentoring, all of our educational programs for parents and nutritional programs, physical fitness programs, art, civic education, and leadership programs. All of these programs, unfortunately, we will not have the funds to continue them for the rest of the school year at Curie High School.
Wow. And so how many kids are we talking about are impacted by this? And then what does that look like for their futures?
We have right now over 500 students enrolled in programming at Curie High School, and about 200 parents, community members that are enrolled in the adult programming. This is a huge loss for the school and for the community, especially because it's so abrupt. The idea that they will not allow us to finish out the school year, but they're going to end the programming mid-year is really shocking and disappointing on the part of the administration. We are going to be working as hard as we can with Chicago Public Schools to try to find some additional resources so that we can sustain some level of programming at the school, because Brighton Park Neighborhood Council is committed to Curie. We've been partnered with Curie for years, and we're going to continue to work with them as best as we can. But obviously, this is a big shock.
Yeah, especially considering that you found out 18 days ago on December 12th. So not a lot of time to really react to this. And then the new year is right around the corner. So school will be back in session next week. So here we are with this. Let's talk about this complaint and really what is the ask here?
Well, we're asking for a federal injunction, a national injunction, nationwide injunction, I should say, to force the U.S. Department of Education to reinstate these funds, to basically lift the termination and to bring these funds back, and for the U.S. Department of Education to honor the contract that we have with them. We have been in full compliance with everything that we have been contracted by the U.S. Department of Education to provide. We had received notice, over the summer about that we've exceeded all of our goals and objectives that were laid out by the U.S. Department of Education. They have just changed the rules. We believe that they violated the law in doing so. Obviously, every administration can bring in its own priorities and things that they'd like to focus on. but there are rules, and there's a process and procedure that needs to be followed, and they circumvented that entire procedure, and they just made this change willy-nilly, and now we're impacted by this. So we don't feel that that's lawful. We feel like that they acted with haste and without regard to the contract, and we also don't agree with their interpretation of the Civil Rights Act or any of the other things that they're saying are at play here. So we believe that we are going to continue to push hard against these changes, and we are going to try to get this funding back into our communities.
I know you mentioned the over 500 students at Curie High School. Can you tell me about the makeup of those students and what it means for those students if this funding isn't there? What does that
Sure.
look like for them on even
So
a daily basis or weekly basis?
Absolutely. Curie High School is one of the largest high schools in the city of Chicago, and in fact in the state of Illinois. It's a school that's comprised of Latino students, of Black students, of Asian students, and of white students. It attracts students from all throughout the southwest side of Chicago. Our programming is open for any student at Curie High School, and we have provided this programming for any student that is eligible. Some programs are referral based because of academic need or because of social emotional need, so we obviously want to prioritize the students with the greatest needs, but we have served all students at Curie High School. What this is going to mean for them is, unfortunately, if they were enrolled in the academic support program or the ACT prep program or any of the other civic and leadership development programs, we might not be able to provide those in the next semester. As I said before, we're going to be working hard with CPS to try to identify some additional resources, but as you know, funds are tight, and the CPS doesn't have a money tree, unfortunately, that it can go to and bring resources as needed, unfortunately. And that's why these federal funds are so crucial, not just for Chicago Public Schools, but for the other 16 districts across the state of Illinois, rural and urban districts that were benefiting from this really important funding. These districts don't have an unlimited font of resources. We know that after-school programs work. We know that tutoring works. We know that academic support programs work, and ACT prep and all these other programs. We know they work, and that's why. But we need the resources to be able to implement the programs.
You've been doing this for a while, so I want to ask you, tell me about some of the success stories of being able to offer this program to students in the community.
Sure. We have been partnered with Curie for years, but we've also been partnered with Kelly College Prep and Richards and several other elementary schools throughout the Southwest Side and in Brighton Park. And we have over 2,000 students enrolled in programming across the neighborhoods. And these programs have had a tremendous impact. We're talking about, huge increases in attendance for students that are enrolled in the programs, increases in test scores and in academic performance, but also, for the students that are enrolled in the social emotional programs or mental health programming, these students are getting access to really high quality mental health services that they otherwise would not have access to. And these students are having, they come to us with many needs. Poverty has enormous impacts in a child's life, whether it be housing insecurity or the job insecurity, financial insecurity of their parents, not having enough food on the table. These are all issues that distract students or inhibit students' ability to succeed in school. And so our process, our program is a comprehensive, holistic program that's bringing in resources to address needs of the whole family at our schools so that we can really improve the entire life of these students and their families, and that has a tremendous positive impact on their academic performance as well as being able to provide some of their basic needs.
Very true. Not to mention that after school programs can also keep many kids in the city of Chicago safe and out of harm's way, which is also a huge factor as well. I want to ask you, before I let you go, what was the reaction? Did you break this to the students, to their parents, and what has some of the reaction been?
Unfortunately, many people are going to be learning about this probably through your broadcast. The fact that the administration made this abrupt announcement so soon to the end of the semester, we were initially working with Act Now to appeal the decision, and we were hopeful that the appeal would have been accepted. Because we believe that we've done nothing wrong. We have been in full compliance with every single aspect of the grant and the contract. And so we didn't understand why we were receiving this termination notice. And so we were hopeful that the appeal would go through. Unfortunately, we found out just yesterday that the appeal was declined. And that is why we're bringing forth this lawsuit. We want a nationwide injunction, and we want to try to bring these resources back into our community and get the grants back up and running. Unfortunately, that means that we haven't been able to share this news with every student and parent that's enrolled in the programming. We've been talking to our staff and letting them know. But like I said, we're going to continue working with CPS and with the Curie administration. We're going to try to find some additional resources to sustain some level of these programs. And we're going to keep fighting to make sure that Curie has the resources it needs to continue to succeed and be an amazing school for all of its students.
Does this mean staffing cuts if everything stands as is?
Yeah.
Does this mean staffing cuts, and you'll have to make that hard decision as well?
Unfortunately, yes. We're not the only ones that are in this situation in Illinois. Act Now's grant was about a $20 million grant statewide. And that included 17 school districts and over 30 schools throughout the state of Illinois. There's about 600 people who are employed with funding from this grant, and that's statewide. And unfortunately, if we cannot get these resources back instated, then yeah, we're going to see layoffs across the state of Illinois. There's over almost 20,000 students statewide that are benefiting from these programs funded through this specific grant.
Wow.
So the idea that they're just pulling the rug out from underneath us, cutting us off at the feet, right in the middle of the school year, it's unconscionable.
Well, Mr. Brosnan, I know it's really a hard conversation to have. I can see the emotion through Zoom in your face. I hope to have you back, and I hope that you're talking about something positive that has come out of this for these children and their families. We appreciate you coming on. I know it's a tough ask to have you walk through this because it sounds like it may be a tough road ahead, but we appreciate your candor, and Happy New Year to you as well.
Thank you very much, and Happy New Year to you and all your viewers.
All right, thank you so much. All right, well, stay with us. We have a lot more coming up. We have an hour, a little less than an hour left of our show. We have to talk to Coach Christian Porter. We're going to be talking about your finances and things that you need to be thinking about in the new year. I know a lot of times people are like, I want to lose weight. I'm one of those people, okay? In 2026, I want to eat healthier, be better, all of those things. But we also have to be fiscally responsible as well. So we're going to be talking to Comptroller Susana Mendoza coming up in the show. So stay with us. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Thank you so much for joining us right now. I want to go to La Crosse, Indiana. It is located in LaPorte County with a population under 600 people, and Chicago is actually the nearest major metropolitan city. We're about 50 to 55 miles away, straight line distance, it says, and roughly 70 miles by road, so about 70 miles away from downtown. And that is where they have this historic basketball court. It was built in 1949. And it will actually be, in just a few days, the first varsity basketball tournament will be held there in the Tiger Den since 1953, so a very long time. And here to talk about this is Coach Christian Porter. Coach, thank you so much for being with us. First, let's talk about this court and what makes it so unique. It's historic.
Yeah, it's definitely, you can hear me okay?
Yes.
I live in a rural area, so I want to make sure you can hear me. Okay, good. Makes it so unique. I would say ultimately it's the nostalgia behind the gym. If you're any kind of an Indiana basketball fan, it's a place that you have to mark on a map and you have to stop by and see it. The size of it, its quaintness, it only sits about 800 people tops. And that's probably capacity in 1949. I would say in 2025, it probably seats a little less. It is the last, as far as I know, the last 74-foot court in Indiana. Playing on Friday and Saturday nights. High school court's 84 feet, and say where you guys are in Chicago, where the Bulls play, or Waukegan or something, they're playing on a 94-foot court. So we're playing on a 74-foot court, and like I said, that's the last one in Indiana. So it's a little bit small. It's pretty awesome. It's definitely a nostalgic throwback place that you can only experience basketball in Indiana. You can really only experience it here, La Crosse, rather than anywhere else. So if you're looking for something that is taking you back to another place, in the 1950s, it's definitely here at the Tiger Den in La Crosse.
Yeah, step back in time. The court is 10 feet shorter than regulation based on what you just said there. Let's talk about this matchup. It's going to happen January 2nd through the 3rd, girls basketball tournament. Who's playing?
Us, Tri-Township. I'm the head coach of the girls. Wheeler, also Northwest Indiana team. John Glenn and LaPorte. So in Indiana, we have 4 classes of basketball based on enrollment. We have 1A, 2A, 3A, and 4A. And 1A being the smallest, 4A being the biggest schools. And I was able to, which really doesn't happen too often, especially in tournament, any kind of tournament play, I was able to get all 4 classes represented in the tournament. So there's a chance that us, Tri-Township, the little 1A school with about 100 kids in our enrollment, will take on maybe LaPorte, which has almost 2,000 kids in their enrollment. So I was able to get all 4 classes represented.
Just like the Hoosiers movie. That's incredible. Yeah. Okay. I must ask you this, because I know there was great demand for this, that the tickets were pre-sold. Are they all sold out so far?
No, you can still get them at the door. I did that as we kind of, as administration and me had talked about it, just as a precaution based that the gym is the size that it is. We wanted to make sure that first we take care of the other schools that are coming and planning on coming with parents, coaches, players, all that kind of stuff. But yes, we can. You can purchase tickets at the door for both nights. It's only $10. See 2 nights of Hoosier basketball.
I want to go back to something that you said, because I thought I heard you say the school's population, at least one of the schools, is 100. Was that accurate? That I heard you say that?
Yeah, our school, Tri-Township, which formerly La Crosse High School. We're about 100 or so, 110, kind of fluctuates, but. Yeah, you heard it right. We're still doing it, still kicking after over 100 boys basketball seasons. I know this is a girls tournament, but we've had over 100 boys basketball seasons in our history. We're one of the few small schools to stay in South. Still kicking it, so having a lot of fun.
I want to ask you, for your girls, considering how small the school is, will this be one of the biggest, no pun intended, courts that they've ever played on, and had such a huge, crowd to play in front of?
We play in, I will say, it's going to be a pretty cool experience because, again, not ever having a tournament on our court. that will be one thing. But is the biggest stage these girls have ever played on? We play in a we play in the best conference in Indiana, in my opinion, the Porter County Conference, and we every January we have a chance. They'll play in front of 2 years ago. They put the championship and they won it. They won their conference championship and they played in front of, I would say, 3,000 people.
Oh, wow.
So no, this won't be necessarily the most people they played in front of. Yeah, but they are. It will be a pretty sentimental thing to.
So they've done this before. I think we lost Coach. He did say that his internet service was not being that he was in rural Indiana, but you heard it there. We were talking about the Tiger Den. It is a 75-year-old court there, basketball court right there in La Crosse, Indiana, and I had to look up where it was located. La Crosse is about 70 miles away from Chicago's downtown area, so not too far away. But yeah, on January 2nd through the 3rd, they will have this girls' basketball tournament there. The court was built in 1949. This will be the first varsity basketball tournament held in the Tiger Den since 1953. The court is 10 feet shorter than regulation, seats only 800, and offers that nostalgic feel of Hoosier basketball. And you heard him there. He said that there are still tickets available. The cost is $10. If maybe perhaps you want to take a drive, do something new in the new year, you can go check out that tournament. Competition will feature LaPorte versus John Glenn. That will happen at 6 o'clock, and then followed by Tri-Township, that's where that coach was from, versus Wheeler at 7:30 in the evening. And then the second night will feature a consolation game followed by the championship game. So absolutely exciting stuff. They are happy we were able to get the coach on. Internet can be spotty depending on where you live. We know that. So sometimes I think when we live in bigger cities, we get used to having internet. Yeah, but when you live in rural places, it's not always the best service. But we appreciate Coach Christian Porter coming on our show and breaking that all down. Okay, we're going to come up here in a few minutes, and we're going to talk about, being fiscally responsible. It's even, when you say fiscally, automatically you go to, I am an official adult, right? Because nobody else uses that word. But we got to talk about our finances and making sure they're in order. It's always a tough conversation to have, but we're going to talk to Comptroller Susana Mendoza right after this really, really quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. I was looking at the market earlier. Not a lot going on today. Things are pretty calm, and normally they are as we near the end of the year. I know a lot of people are still eyeing those interest rates and hoping to see what happens next. When you look at it, you can see that the market's down 62 points. It's fluctuating right now, going between 63, 62 points, but 60 on average. We also want to take a look right now at New York. We know preps are underway there for, obviously, their big New Year's Eve celebrations. People are flooding the streets. Look at the Christmas tree still up. Looks absolutely beautiful there. In terms of the countdown, we have one going of our own because we know there's going to be some huge celebrations here in the Chicagoland area. But in terms of New York, New Year's Day is supposed to happen in 1 day, 8 hours, 1 minute, and now 50 seconds away. And if you're in Chicago, that is 1 day, 9 hours, 1 minute, and now 43 seconds. So yeah, we'll be monitoring that as well. But one thing that we definitely want to talk about that a lot of people may feel like they need to kind of kick it into shape is, their finances, looking at your finances, maybe credit card debt, eliminating some of that. Maybe you want to pay down your home and hopefully own it at some point and not be paying a mortgage for the rest of your life. And maybe at some point you just want to have a tax bill in addition to other bills that comes with the house, but own the house outright. We're going to be talking to the comptroller as well about that, what it means to get your finances in order and become fiscally responsible. Maybe you have a financial resolution for the new year. And if you don't, maybe you want to consider it, and why now is a good time to consider that. And don't be afraid to talk about it. We're going to talk to her coming up after this short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. This is a conversation that is definitely needed, but this is definitely the person to talk about it. We are speaking with the state's comptroller, Susana Mendoza. And I want to point out before we go to her, really what her job is, because I think sometimes people hear comptroller, they hear finances, but they don't really know what the job entails. So her job is to be the chief fiscal control officer for the state of Illinois. And that means that she oversees the state's financial accounts, ordering payments into and out of state funds, and managing the government's bills and fiscal reporting. That means paying the state's bills, monitoring cash flow, producing financial reports, and even more than that. So this is a good person to talk to about getting your finances in order. Susana Mendoza, thank you so much for coming on the show. And thank you so much for talking about this with us.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's always fun to think about what our New Year's resolutions are going to be. So let me just start by saying Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
But we're almost there.
Yes, Happy New Year. We are right around the corner here. You know, a lot of people do have those resolutions, and oftentimes, number one I hear on the list, losing weight, getting healthy, but fiscal responsibility is part of the healthy part of it. What are some things you think people should consider as we go into the new year, specifically about their finances?
Yeah, you know, because financial health is so critically important, and it might actually be easier to stick to than hitting the gym. So the first thing is, if you are in debt, to dig out of it. And the first trick to do that is to stop digging, right? So never spend more than you have coming in. And I've often said that government does a bad job of following that advice. But I've been working very, very hard to try to create a new culture of fiscal stability and responsibility. And we can do that at home, starting with our own budgets. So I would say the first bit of advice you can give to someone who wants to improve their finances or set a goal is to not be afraid to take a hard look at what your finances are actually like. Sometimes it's scary, it could be daunting, but if you don't know what you're spending, you have no way of creating an attack plan to make sure that you're living within your means.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And, you know, I have a lot of things that I do, I would say backwards. For example, you know, it's really easy to get caught up in subscriptions on your phone, right? Because you feel like, oh, it's $2 coming out on PayPal. It's not that big of a deal. What do you say to people that are maybe tracking some of that spending, but it's still coming out of their accounts?
Yeah, it's hard because if you don't even know what you're spending your money on, that means you're not financially aware. And the number one trick, you know, like I said, is to stop digging. And so when you're paying for things like Netflix or multiple subscription channels, you might not need them, right? So my advice would be, you know, really set a goal of, for the next month or two, looking at your credit cards meticulously, looking at every single subscription that you have, and then asking yourself, can you live without them? For the next month or two, do not purchase anything other than a necessity. Think of things as a necessity versus a luxury, a need versus a want, and try to limit your spending. Don't spend anything more than you absolutely have to for the next 2 months. And meanwhile, do your own audit of where you're spending your money, and you're going to realize that a lot of the money that we spend that we don't even think about because we're not looking so meticulously at those credit cards is money that we don't need to be spending, could in fact be saving or leveraging to pay down your highest interest bearing credit cards, for example.
I was going to ask you about credit cards because we do know, you know, in America, it came out not too long ago that credit card debt is some of the highest that we've seen, historic highs. What is your advice to people to get out of that debt? Because some people feel like, you know, this is a web that I can just never get out of.
Well, number one, do not use your credit card unless if you have the cash on hand to make the purchase that you're interested in making. So many of us, you know, it's Christmas time and we want to be nice and generous to everyone, even if we can't afford it. Or you yourself want to treat yourself and you see a sweater that's, you know, 30% off. And you're like, I'm going to buy this because it's on sale. And then you put it on a credit card, not having the money to purchase it that day. And now you're paying interest on that. So that sweater that you got for 30% off is going to end up costing you 1,000% more over time because of interest payments. So I joke that I feel like I'm allergic to interest payments. They're the worst thing, and you should avoid them at all costs. Interest is something that you do to leverage things. For example, buying a house, you try to get the lowest interest payment possible. And the only way you can get low interest payments is by what? Having good credit, right? So the less that you depend on credit cards for wants versus needs, the better. But the best rule is to not spend it. Don't put it on the credit card if you actually can't afford to pay it in cash before the end of the month. When that payment comes due, the best way to leverage your credit card to take advantage of the cool points or the miles or the things, the benefits that you get with the credit card, that's cool to do, but only if you know that you're not going to be paying interest payments that are going to be recurring and really dragging you down into a world of debt that frankly is a world of hurt you can't avoid.
There's two things that I've heard. I've heard people say things like, you can't take the money with you. You only live once. What's your response to that in terms of being financially responsible? And maybe for some people, this is the first time that they will sit down and budget. Where should they start?
Well, you start by becoming financially aware, sitting down, literally looking at your credit cards. If you're married, doing this in a partnership with your spouse, because money issues are one of the biggest marital problems that bring couples down. So really, it's to kind of think of it, this is going to sound kind of gross, but think of it like if you had a festering wound. And if you know that you have a festering wound, you don't want to look at it, it hurts. You know that by not looking at it, is it going to get any better? Of course not. It's only going to get worse. So you have to acknowledge that there's a problem, take a look at it, figure out what the plan of attack on healing that is. And your finances are the same way. If you don't want to look at those credit card bills, you know that you have this debt and you're like, I'll get to it someday, but it's emotionally draining or it seems scary or overwhelming, then it's only going to get worse. And the only way you can stop digging is by knowing how much of a hole you've been digging yourself into, right? The way to get out of it is to start putting money into the account. So that's why you want an emergency savings account or paying down your existing debts, like hitting the highest interest-bearing credit cards first. And getting these little wins when you start to see that, oh, wow, I'm making progress, that like gets you so excited. We've all been there, where a little victory feels like a big, huge win at the end of the day. And so the New Year's resolution has to be, we're going to take a hard look at our finances, no matter how scary or daunting they are. Give yourself a clear picture of what your financial situation is, and then set that plan of attack to start off 2026 on a much better financial footing.
Very good advice. I want to ask you, in terms of resolutions, right? The state of Illinois, if in your mind you could come up with one resolution in the role that you're in, what would it be?
It would be to continue to get more credit upgrades. When I first ran for office back in 2015-16, I promised to deliver the very first credit rating that our state would have seen in 20 years. And I didn't stop at one. We've now helped deliver 10 credit upgrades on my watch. But I don't want to stop there. Even though 10 is my favorite number, I'm looking forward to that 11th and 12th. And you know what? I'm a Taylor Swift fan, so 13 is her lucky number. That sounds pretty good to me too. But let's start with one at a time. I'd love to see that 11th credit upgrade come in 2026 for the state of Illinois. Every time we get an upgrade, that means lower costs for taxpayers. And that is something that I really take to heart.
Yeah, and that is something that a lot of people will appreciate. I must ask you before we go, why is 10 your favorite number?
Well, it was my soccer number since I was a little kid. And then my first job when I worked at City Hall in the Department of Planning and Development was on the 10th floor. And when I bought my first car, it came due. They called me on October 10th. And my first tank of gas stopped at 1010 without me trying. It's really been a lucky number for me. And it happens to be that I'm the 10th controller in the state of Illinois. And when I was sworn in as a state rep, it was on January 10th. And I ended up calling my son Quinton as a middle name, and it's spelled with a T-E-N at the end. So I'm not kidding. It really is my favorite number. It's been a great number. And but I do like number 11 when it comes to credit ratings and more down the road.
And guess what? It's 310. And I'm talking to you on camera 10. I can't make this up.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. That is crazy. All right. Well, Happy New Year to you. It was a pleasure speaking with you today. And
everybody should work on their credit becoming better. I'll work on it for the state, but we should all set, at the very least, that New Year's resolution of improving your credit and try to get it into the 800s. That's a great goal.
Yep. Number one goal should be for a lot of people out there. Susana Mendoza, it was a pleasure, and we'll see you in the new year.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And now it's 311, which 11 is also her favorite number. We appreciate you sticking with us. We have a few more minutes left of our show. We're going to break down some other issues, some other stories happening in our community. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for joining back in to Chicago Live. We are going to be talking to Patrick Cleary. He's the union president for Firefighters Local 2. And this is about a new law. You know, in January, come January 1st, there's often new laws that are now on the books, but this is one that is very important. It is called the Drew Price Law. And it's actually named after Andrew Price, a Chicago firefighter who died on November 13th, this was of 2023, from injuries that he suffered while battling a blaze in the Lincoln Park neighborhood. He was just 39 years old at the time of his death, very young. So this new law is all about safety, and it requires new buildings with skylights, roof renovations, etc., to have guardrails for firefighters. We're going to be talking to Patrick Cleary all about that. That's coming up a little later in this show. Stay with us after this short break. We'll be right back to break it all down. Stay with us. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We were just talking about this new law that is going into effect January 1st, 2026. It is called the Drew Price Act, and I'm sure that name rings a bell to you because it was a Chicago firefighter who was just doing his job and sadly died from his injuries battling a blaze in the Lincoln Park neighborhood, falling through an unprotected roof opening. I want to bring in Patrick Cleary with the union president for Firefighters Local 2 to talk more about this new law and really how it is saving lives, saving the lives of firefighters. Can you talk about that, Mr. Cleary, and really what this new law will mean by it being on the books? I can't hear you. You may want to double check and make sure you're not muted, if that's possible. Are you there? We've been trying to speak with Mr. Cleary, and let me just kind of, as he works through maybe some technical issues there, what we know. So this has everything to do with firefighters being on rooftops. We know oftentimes we've seen these fires where the blazes shoot right through the roof. Sometimes they have to relieve the fire because it is caught up there in the roof. And so the firefighters have to get on top of roofs and fight these blazes. And that was the case for firefighter Andrew Price back in the year of 2023. So what we have found out is that the Drew Price Act will basically help with firefighters that are in these situations. First responders, they often are tasked with the difficulty of traveling onto roofs, especially with low visibility because of smoke. So they don't really know what they're stepping on because of almost like the blinding conditions up there. This law directly addresses the risk that in this case Andrew faced, and it ensures that all new buildings that have light shafts or any type of opening will have a guardrail installed to limit the risk of falling through. So it is something that will be there to protect firefighters that will get up there on those rooftops and have to fight fires, which we know already is a dangerous job, and to have this added risk included in it makes it even more dangerous. We know in terms of who was championing this new law was State Senator Mike Porfirio, who was on top of this out of Lyons Township, a Democrat there, who was instrumental of getting this law passed. So hopefully we'll try to get Patrick Cleary, the union president, back.
Can you hear me?
We have you. Yes, I can hear you just fine. I'm happy that this worked out. I want to bring you back into the conversation. You know, this sadly came out of tragedy, but this will help save lives for many other firefighters out there. Tell me about this new law and really what it will do.
So what it does is it covers existing buildings and new construction in cities with a population greater than 1 million people, which is Chicago. And it forces the owners to provide either a railing or a parapet wall or some type of covering over light shafts and skylights.
How easy is that for, some of these building owners to do? That sounds very easy and simple.
It is, but it's hard to monitor them. So the bill also, or the act also states that the city of Chicago will now provide a survey for an entire year and survey all the buildings in Chicago. I'm assuming they're going to do that with the building department and the fire department to determine which buildings need to put up railings or parapets around these light shafts and skylights.
Mr. Cleary, go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off.
Then after the 1 year survey, they will then send that information to OEMC. So when we get dispatched, it will tell us, hey, this building has a skylight, or this building has a skylight and it doesn't have a railing up around it yet. It'll update us to what the status of that building is.
Mr. Cleary, I've never fought a fire, but I can only imagine being a person that's covered it from the ground. You see the firefighters up there. You have to know that in some cases it's so smoky. Sometimes it's almost blinding. Why is this so important in saving lives and moving forward?
That's exactly why, because it's a super dangerous job going up to the roof. A lot of times you can't see where you're going because it's so smoky, and if it's nighttime, you can't see anyway. So you're using your pike pole to feel the ground in front of you to make sure you're not stepping into something you don't want to step into. So this will help them in case they do come upon a light shaft. They'll run into the railing or they'll run into the parapet wall to let them know, hey, there's a light shaft in front of you.
Because previously, even with that pole, it would be hard to know that there's a skylight or something else right in front of you. Is that accurate?
That's exactly it. Yes. So now there'll be some type of barrier to let you know something bad is in front of you.
Yeah, that's a big deal in the city of Chicago because so many structures, oftentimes you see, at least in my coverage of fires here, you see firefighters actively on the roof. Sometimes they have to cut open the roof. So very important moving forward. What of the firefighter community, you being a spokesperson, obviously, for many firefighters, what has been their response to this?
Well, they're elated that this is being done. So we first did it in city council, but in city council, the ordinance only covered new construction or buildings that were going to be 50% renovated. So then we went to the state and spoke with Senator Porfirio and Angie Quay, our state rep, and asked them to carry this bill for us, and they did. And then they also put in the survey aspect, which is important because you have to go now and look at every building in the city to determine which ones have light shafts that are unprotected, and then force them to provide some type of protection.
Yeah, it's a means of checks and balances. Otherwise, you wouldn't really know, if buildings were actually following that law and following the rules. So absolutely. Well, we wish you the best. We want to make sure that we track this and make sure that they're actually doing the survey. So we definitely plan to follow up with you. Mr. Cleary, this is definitely life-saving, just being on the ground, watching some of these fires play out. It seems almost common sense that this should be easy to implement and should have been done, quite frankly, some time ago. Patrick Cleary, Happy New Year to you. Thank you so much for your time, sir, and we look forward to following up to see how this is carried forward.
Happy New Year to you, and thank you for covering this. I do appreciate it. Our members, our firefighters and paramedics truly appreciate you guys helping us out.
Yeah, you hear them. That's actually a paramedic with the Chicago Fire Department going by us right now. They're always hard at work in the city of Chicago, and we appreciate their service working hard on the ground here. So thank you so much. And thank you to all of those first responders who work so diligently. You know, a lot of times we talk holidays and Christmas and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and we think, you know, well, they're off. No, they don't always get a day off. So we want to thank them for their service and their contributions to the city and also suburban Chicagoland as well. Stay with us. We have a lot more on this show right after this break.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Welcome back to Chicago Live. Maybe you are thinking in 2026, our family's going to get a new dog. Well, this is very interesting. The American Kennel Club has added 3 breeds to their list. And joining us to talk about it is the Vice President of Communications and Public Relations, Brandy Hunter-Munden. Thank you so much for taking time out to speak with us. This is really interesting. Talk about these breeds and where they've come from.
Well, they're 3 very different breeds. So the first one is the Basset Faux de Bretagne, and it is a very old hound. It dates back to about 1500 BC in France, and it is a diligent worker. It loves a job to do, but it's also excellent with family and kids. They require a good amount of mental stimulation, but they are a good-looking hound. They're not too big for people who don't want something too big, but do want a dog that can be active. This dog can definitely do that. We have the Russian Zvetnaya Balanka, which is
say that twice.
More compact breed. I'm sorry?
I said say that twice. Yeah, some of
Russian
these are hard to say.
Balaka. There we go. It is a very compact breed. It is a very sweet breed. It's going into our toy group. They don't get too big at all. They require a good amount of walks and energy just to get that spunk out of them and, let them get that stimulation, but they're great with families. They're excellent for apartment living. They do require a little bit more grooming than some dogs might because they have a longer coat, but they can also be in a shorter coat if that's easier for the owner. They'll be comfortable either way. And then you have and I'm telling you, this is the most hardest of them all to say, the Teddy Roosevelt Terrier. I mean, it's a great American breed that originated here, is named after, of course, Teddy Roosevelt, and it is a breed that was developed to hunt vermin in houses and on farms, in barns and things like that. So it does enjoy a job to do. It's got a great amount of energy. It is not too big, which a lot of people do care about given how we live a bit more compact now. It doesn't get much bigger than about 25 pounds. So you've got a lot of dog in a little package, but it is a dog that if you want to hike, run, and go, it is definitely going to do that with you. And it's adorable to look at, as all of the breeds are.
You know what's crazy about this, as we've continued this conversation, everyone you've said I've typed in. And I adopted my dog back in 2014, I think 2015, from a shelter, and I always wanted to know what my dog was because it looks like a mixed breed of sorts. So most people said, you have a rat terrier, but I must be honest. When I look up the Teddy Roosevelt Terrier, I am astonished. This is my dog, spot on, and I've never known that until today. I mean, spot on. Everything about the dog is my dog. So you've solved the mystery now for me of what is my dog comprised of. So now I know that.
That's very interesting. And a lot of people have said that my dog really, really looks like that. So, no matter how you acquire your dog, you always want to know what your dog is, right? It's the mystery of what your dog is and where your dog comes from. And that's part of what we do at the American Kennel Club in recognizing these breeds and preserving these breeds, because some people didn't even know they had a breed. I met somebody that was like, I had no idea that my dog was actually a breed because I got it from a family member and I had no clue. And then I went digging and look at that. So, it's always fun to learn, but really it's about breed preservation. These breeds are not new. They're new to the US, which is two totally different things. And bringing them into full recognition is about awareness, ethical breeding, and preservation of these breeds because they've been around for a very long time and we want them to continue. We're not advocating for ownership. If you want one of these breeds, do your research, make sure it fits your lifestyle so you can be the best owner for your dog and give it a good life. That's wonderful. But what we are advocating is for preservation and education.
I must be honest, my mouth is open. I don't even know what else to say after looking this breed up, but I do want to ask because one thing you said I think is very important. You said these breeds aren't new. So, sometimes when that was the first thing I thought when it said added 3 new breeds, I thought, well, why haven't we heard of these before? They must be new, but they're not new. Tell me what goes into identifying, at least for the American Kennel Club, new breeds. What is the process of deeming these to be indeed official breeds?
Well, believe it or not, we do not seek them out. If you have or are passionate about a breed, you have to reach out to the American Kennel Club because there are actually far more breeds in the world than we actually recognize. These breeds make us 205, but there are far more breeds out there and they've been around for a very long time. So what we do care about stateside is that there is a parent club or a national breed club that is dedicated to the development of this breed, the health testing in this breed, and the preservation of this breed, and then for a significant amount of ownership in the states. Normally, we try to have at least 300 households or more. Could be a little bit less depending on the breed and the rarity of it, but if they're meeting all the requirements, we're a pedigree registry. So there's a lot of terminology people won't necessarily know, like a stud book and things that we keep, because it's the lineage of the breed and the lineage of breeding lines that are important to the preservation. So it is a process, and breeds don't come in easily. It's not generally a one-year process. These breeds have actually been in FSS, which is our foundation stock services. Then they move into our miscellaneous class, and now they're in full recognition, which means they can compete in Westminster and Kennel Club of Philadelphia and the AKC National Championship that we just held, which are, key things that a lot of breeder owner handlers care about, specifically professional handlers and things like that. But the Conformation Dog Show is also a part of the evaluation of breeding stock. So it's really important in how dogs evolve and have evolved over time. And we're really excited to have these breeds and that these clubs have done the work and dedicated their time to the preservation of them.
Brandy, I must ask you, because like, for example, with a human, right, you can say, well, Brandy's smart, she's very intelligent, she's high energy. You can say that, after you've, spent time with someone to identify really characteristics of who they are. How do they come up with these descriptions? Like, for example, the dog that I won't be able to say, but the first one that's on the list, they're wicked smart.
Oh, you can't, come on, you can't say Basset.
Basset de Bretagne. Is that right?
There you go.
Okay. All right. So it says here, they're wicked smart. And so if you're wanting a dog that's just going to lay around all day long, this dog is not for you. But yet when challenged mentally and physically, they're happy to come in with you and curl up on the sofa for the evening. How do they come up with that kind of descriptor for the dog? Is this, so many people are in this particular club for this particular breed, and then they all kind of comprise, factors and things that they've noticed about the dog to kind of give you a description of what the dog is all about?
That's a great question. Honestly, the traits come from, the description comes from the traits, right? What they've exhibited over time, over ownership, what people have learned about from living with them, from growing with them, from the job that they were bred to do, how they've integrated into families. So that really comes in from the traits, right? They're smart because they know exactly what they're supposed to do. They execute their job well. They require a good level of mental stimulation. For some breeds, not necessarily these three, but certain breeds learn how to open door handles depending on the type of door, or, they can be trained to, we see medical alert dogs and service dogs all the time. That smartness, that training, that ability to catch it, those things are traits that exist in breeds. And from those traits is where and living with them clearly, but is where we develop those descriptors.
What do you think? Some of these dogs that I looked up, like the first one, the one we just talked about, Basset.
They call them Fobs. Fobs is their nickname.
Yeah, that's a good nickname. When I look it up, I'm like, I've seen this dog before, but we're kind of living in a world now where you hear all these mixes of dogs, Yorkie poo, and people are like, because of popularity, they're going out to get these dogs, maybe not really knowing a whole lot about them. What do you say about that? Because that happens a lot, especially around the holidays. People see, oh, it can fit in my hand. It's so, it's trendy on social media, but they don't know anything about the characteristics of the dog, the traits.
True. And this is why we tell people to do your research, because dogs require the best owner we can possibly be. And they have requirements based on their traits from years and years and years and their evolution into who they are today as a breed or as types of dogs. So we tell people to do your research. Just because a dog is cute does not mean it is for you. I am a terrier girl myself. I have a West Highland White Terrier, and I can tell you I love hounds, but I don't think I'm fully equipped to own a hound based on the breeds that I like and the things that they need. So we tell people, while yes, it is an emotional decision, it is also one you need to think through, because this is a ownership journey. It's not like getting a car or buying a house. It is a living, breathing thing that is relying on us for care, for energy, for stimulation. And we need to make sure that we know what those requirements are in order for us to be the best owners for them.
You have one cute dog. The West Highland Terrier is absolutely adorable.
Dog from the Caesars commercial.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the dog has a face for commercials anyway. I feel like this dog was used in the Coach ads back in the day too, if I'm not mistaken.
It is a breed that was used in Coach ads. Yeah,
absolutely.
This is true.
Well, Brandy Hunter Munden, it has been a pleasure. Happy New Year to you. And thank you so much for coming on here to talk about these new breeds that have been added.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope you give your dog some belly rubs and scratches for me.
All right, will do, and you do the same. Thank you so much. Well, stay with us right here on Chicago Live. We are winding down to the 4 o'clock hour, so stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for sticking with us here on Chicago Live. I'm sure you have your New Year's Eve plans laid out. Maybe you're going to just stay inside and crash on the couch. Maybe you're going to watch the ball drop here in Chicago. Maybe you're going to watch it drop in New York. You can kind of shuffle between the two based on the time zones. We want to bring in Lisa Evers. She is with Fox 5 in New York. She's right there in the middle of it all. Lisa, thank you so much for spending time with us today. Can you give us an idea of what New York preps are looking like for New Year's Eve this time around?
Well, let me tell you, Tia, first of all, we've had what appears to be so far a record number of tourists coming into New York City for this holiday season, just starting before Christmas and extending now throughout this entire week. We're in Times Square. We're right underneath where the ball will be dropping tomorrow at midnight, and it's packed with people. Now, to get ready for this, the NYPD is telling us that they are preparing for an estimated 1 million people to be jammed in here shoulder to shoulder for this event, for what's being billed as the biggest New Year's Eve party pretty much anywhere. So what the police have done, the NYPD have done, they're saying there's no specific threats in terms of security or terror, but what they are calling this is a heightened threat climate, as many places are, around the United States and around the world, just because of things that could happen, because of the always the prospect of a lone wolf, somebody who's radicalized for whatever reason, or somebody who has motives for reasons we don't even know or may not even understand. So what they have done is that they have this multi-layered plan. The first thing that people will see, and that we've seen starting this afternoon, are uniformed officers, thousands of uniformed NYPD officers on patrol, just constantly on the move throughout this district. And then they also will have plainclothes detectives, plainclothes officers here as well. But the main thing they're doing to coordinate this, they have at police headquarters, which is in Lower Manhattan, they have what's called a JOC. That's the short name for the Joint Operations Command Center. It's a center where they have all the video streams, many video streams coming in from the various surveillance cameras. This particular area, Tia, in Times Square, is one of the most areas with one of the most intense video surveillance, pretty much of definitely anywhere in the United States, and probably one of the most heavily surveilled areas around the world. And what they're doing is they'll be monitoring those streams in real time. They'll have other agencies. They have communications with federal law enforcement, as well as other agencies like the paramedics and the fire department, who have various resources to respond to whatever emergency is there. The NYPD will also have bomb-sniffing dogs in this area. This is all going to be closed off starting tomorrow afternoon, in order to get in, you'll have to go through a security checkpoint, similar to a screening, like an airport screening, but also you're not allowed to bring in backpacks, alcohol, folding chairs, umbrellas, anything that could be used as a weapon or anything that's big and bulky, because you've seen the video from here. People are packed shoulder to shoulder. So they have that aspect of the plan. There's also the aviation unit, the K9 squad, K9 units. They will be activated. They'll be going around for bomb or explosive detection. They also have radiological equipment and air testers for anything that might be in the air, any type of contaminant that could be dangerous to people. So it really is a multi-layered plan. They have aviation unit has been activated. They'll be on the lookout for any drones that people try to fly over there, which sometimes happens. And they're not going to tolerate anybody being disorderly in any way. Will immediately be removed. That's what the mayor said at the briefing earlier today that we were at just across the street here.
Yeah.
At the NYPD substation. So it's a very, very extensive plan. They've had an excellent record so far, and they want to keep it that way because you're talking 1 million people here. You're talking about they're estimating about another 1 billion people watching on TVs around the world. So that's a lot of eyes on New York City, and they want to make sure that this goes off without a hitch. Excuse me.
No, you're fine. I know it's cold out there, too. We've seen some of that police activity behind you. We've seen some police officers drive by. We've seen the tourists try to get into your live shot here. Here's my last question for you, kind of on a fun note here. Sure. A lot of people look forward to when that ball drops in New York City, especially all of that confetti coming down. Do you have any idea how many pounds of confetti is coming down this time around?
Tens and tens of thousands. And what they did is they had a Make-A-Wish type of thing with the confetti. They had a post that was set up here before this time, leading up to New Year's Eve, where people could write out a wish on a piece of confetti that was supposedly going to be part of the confetti that gets dropped down here. But Tia, the other big news, and on the fun side of it is this is a brand new ball that's getting dropped. It's twice as big as the previous one, twice as many Swarovski crystals. I can barely move my lips to say that name.
It's okay.
It's twice as big. It's the pieces are supposed to be spherical, so it's supposed to be visually even more spectacular than what we saw in past years. So that's something new that's happening this year that people are really looking forward to seeing. So the atmosphere, I mean, it's just the weather is horrendous tonight. It's very windy. It's very cold, and but people don't seem to mind. They're out here to have a good time, and we're out here to work.
I know.
Convey to the world what's going on here. But it should go off really well. I mean, the level of planning that they started basically planning for tomorrow night, last January 2nd, and they debrief on what they've learned, and they really have it down to kind of a science in terms of even the road closures, the ceiling manhole covers, garbage cans, that type of thing. I mean, there's like every department, from sanitation does that with the garbage cans, with the trash cans. Every major New York City department, public department or public agency is involved. So it's New York is really trying to put their best foot forward tomorrow night, and we hope and pray everything goes off the way everybody wants it to. We bring in 2026 with peace. And a lot of fun.
I like what you said there, and I hope we're doing the same thing in Chicago, and I hope it goes off without a hitch.
Hope so too.
Yeah, and peace. That's a big thing that you said there. Before I let you go, I got one question for you, because you're living there in the midst of all of this. For some of us, we see it and we say, wow, this is fun, this is exciting. But some people are like, I can't wait till these people go home. How are you feeling dealing with, all of these people, the influx of people, even more traffic there than usual? Is this an exciting time?
Love it.
I love to hear that.
Yeah, it's an exciting time, and I love it because one thing is, especially too, the city struggled after the pandemic when people could not come here. And so I see all these people. We see all the people spending money. To me, I look at it and I'm like going, this is jobs. All the people working in the hotels, the restaurants, the vendors, all the different shops. To handle these type of crowds, they have to hire more people, and people already working are getting extra hours that they want. So I look at it that way. And then also too, it's like just to see their excitement. It's like we're on these streets, we're on 7th Avenue all the time. We're in this area all the time. And then just to see that people are excited to be here too, it kind of makes you relive again. Like, wow, what was it like before I lived here? What was it like, to see this for the first time? So it helps you see the city from a different light, because Tia, as you know, being in the news business too, a lot of times we don't often see the best, the best.
Yeah, that's true.
We see a lot of things that are wrong, and we see a lot of things that are disturbing, and so just to see the excitement and to have that kind of energy, and to have the police commissioner Jessica Tisch with that confidence, knowing that she's a very, very much a strategic person, a data-driven person, a planner, and a policymaker. So, to see her feeling confident today when she spoke out here outside with the mayor about what they have going on, it's really like a general, preparing the troops. And we've got all these officers. They have police officers who are already here. They have some that are already staying in hotels. Sources are telling me, so that they're in position. They're close in. They don't even need to come from one of the precincts. They're right here on hand. So it's just we're hoping it's going to go really, really well. Everybody's excited about it, and people are just really committed to, people from all different backgrounds, all different races,
yes,
all different, segments of society out here. I'll give you one funny thing, and then we got to get going because we got to do a hit for 5.
I know. Go ahead.
There was a guy around 4:00 in the afternoon. It's like, the panhandlers start coming out. There's a guy on the next block. He's got a gigantic sign. He's up against the wall. He goes, "I'm going to be honest. I need money for weed," and he's got a big sign up like that. Trying. We're used to seeing food and that type of thing, and people give them food and we give them money and everything. But he's just like, "I'm going to be honest with you. This is what I need money for." So it's just, there's also that element too of, that you see in big cities. You see in Chicago. You see it. We see in Chicago. We see in New York. That you see in the big cities. It's like there's just that unpredictable element of the street, and just kind of the human humor that's there as well. So we're hoping it's all going to go safely. 2026 will be a more peaceful year.
Yeah, that's what we're all hoping.
So,
Lisa, you have been an absolute pleasure. I hope your next live shot goes great. You got to get warm. I appreciate your candor and everything you had to say. Happy New Year to you.
Okay, Happy New Year to you, Tia. And I think I deserve a slice and my crew of Chicago deep dish pizza.
Yes, you do.
Instead of the salads and the other stuff.
All right. Gift card coming in the mail. Gift card coming in the mail, Lisa. I'll send you the gift card. All right. Thank you so much. Take care. You and your photographer. Okay. So, yeah, you see all of the work. I found what Lisa had to say really riveting. You can see all of the planning that went into making this happen in New York. I mean, thinking about the manhole covers, making sure they're covered so nobody tries to do anything nefarious, having the police nearby at the neighboring hotels, just in case something does happen, they're readily available. They're not coming from across town. We know it will be super jam-packed, super busy. And we heard from even our own mayor, who will be talking with Paris Schutz. They're probably doing that interview literally right now about some of this. They're going to be talking about some of this, but the mayor did speak to this yesterday, saying that they were on top of safety, being that this is back, really a first timer for the city of Chicago. So we can only hope and pray that all the planning has been done, the safety preps are underway, and everything will go on peacefully. I think that's a prayer and a hope that we all have. You heard Pierre say here earlier, there will be a curfew for New Year's Eve activities in the city of Chicago, a curfew of 10 p.m. For children, which seems like a no-brainer, right? Okay, so Happy New Year's. And I said it. I said this earlier. I said I hate when people say Happy New Year's because that's not really right. But Happy New Year to you, anybody that's out there watching. This is our last show of 2025. We will resume in 2026 of Chicago Live. You have been a great audience watching, tuning in all year long. We just really started this show, but we appreciate every time that every single person tunes in, clicks one of these videos to watch. We hope you have a safe New Year's Day, right? We hope that New Year's Eve is great. The new year, January 1st, brings you all the peace and happiness this world can hold. We'll see you in 2026. Thank you so much for watching Chicago Live.